Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 8th of May, comes to you from London. And the big news overnight is the new French president. And interestingly, the impact on the euro is that it's actually falling slightly. So I guess in some ways that victory was priced in, and we saw the euro surge on that first round election a couple of weeks ago. Interestingly, dollar is still bearish below the cloud. We do have these downside targets as much as a further 1% downside. We're sitting at 98.73 on the dollar index, and we are bearish in the short term. I've said before that this was the low point around this time last year, so we may enter a territory where we see a recovery in the dollar. We were bearish below the cloud on the daily last year at this time, but at the moment it is still bearish in the short term. The long-term picture still bullish for the dollar. Looking at the euro, we see we're hitting these record highs in the moment, several month record highs here, certainly 6 month highs, and 109.64. So can we broke that 110 level momentarily last night, but we're struggling to hold on to it, so it'll be interesting. We still do have these downside targets hanging over us for the euro, and that just always needs to be remembered. Dollar is rising against the yen, so the risk on trade is off at the moment. The yen is falling, the dollar is rising. And sterling it's nudging this 130 level at the moment, and we are bullish above the cloud on the medium and the long-term charts, but the long-term charts still bearish, but the medium and short-term charts are bullish. We do have this upside target of 132.96. We had this 132 target given back in January, so it'll be interesting to see if we meet that. We've still got downside targets here. This downside target negated. There was one here, so that is quite bullish, but the long-term chart is still pretty bearish for sterling. Looking at the euro sterling rate, sterling has the slight upper hand this morning, and the Swissy sterling rising there, and against the Australian dollar marching up as well at 175. The S&P 500 index on Friday closed higher, just couldn't quite break the 2400 level at 2399.3, so we're really just nudging it, but the charts are all bullish here, so that's quite interesting as well. The Nasdaq also rising and just struggling to break the high that was made earlier in the week, but the long-term chart just looks spectacular for the Nasdaq. Dow Jones didn't manage to test its high back in April, but the interesting thing is that it is bullish above the cloud on all three time frames with upside targets, so still looking pretty good. And the Russell 2000 index is the index at the moment that's lagging, but at the same time it's bullish above the cloud, still holding the position here, the lagging line coming back to the cloud. So that's quite key. The S&P future is down 0.2% this morning, and the Nasdaq E-mini about the same. So looks like the US market will open just slightly lower. FTSE 100 is bullish on all three time frames, but really just not maintaining any clear trend. The FTSE 250 has been clearer and is bullish above the cloud on all three time frames, but no clear short-term upside targets really now to play for. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, but the medium and long-term charts still look very good. The DAX is bullish above the cloud on all three time frames. Did open higher this morning, but it's just giving some of those gains back. So we're interesting on those French elections, but the market is still looking bullish on all three time frames. And the Nikkei has jumped this morning as well, so quite a big move there overnight, and that is now taking us into multi-year highs. We're seeing sort of 18-month highs here on the Nikkei, so that is bullish. We've got this upside target of 38% activated, so that's quite key too. Hang Seng is bullish above the cloud on all three time frames. The Chinese index is really falling away quite heavily, so China is the market that's worrying me the most at the moment. Bearish on the long term, really diving here on the medium term, and the short term is falling away. So Not good news for China. Sensex is bullish on all three time frames, so that the Indian market's still looking strong, and the Australian market is just holding on the short term, having been really teetering with this cloud. So it's still bullish on all three time frames. Just Brent crude. The really big story here is that Brent has really did dive at the end of last week, and we're below that $50 mark, taking us lower here. Really, the outlook for crude oil now is bearish. This first move down was the sign that we'd broken out of this range. The failure to make a new high, and then a move to new lows is looking bearish at the moment. WTI, we're seeing is also bearish below the cloud, so big moves to the downside there. Nat gas also just holding those 320s. It's really just sitting in that range at the moment. Taking a look at gold, the gold chart really dived on Thursday last week, Wednesday, Thursday, from the 250s just straight to the 230s. We nudged 119 at one point there, or 120. So we are just now just recovering a little bit, but we're still not bullish by any stretch on that chart. We've unwound some of the big upside targets, and we do have some quite big downside targets. This is the pullback. The big thing is, can we then run and move higher than that 1289 that we saw previously? At the moment, gold is bearish in the short term, medium term holding on, and long term still bullish. So quite interesting there. And silver, much the same picture. The medium term chart here, though, is bearish. US Treasury yields sitting at 2.3% after last week's Fed announcement, so not much action there. Apple is bullish, moving to new highs. Google, the weekly chart just looks incredible, holding on there. Amazon is also looking good on all three timeframes, just pulling back a bit in the short term, as is Facebook, just coming back off that high of around 153. But interestingly, this chart just looks great and lots of upside targets. And Microsoft, the same thing really, just bullish on all three timeframes. So US tech still looking pretty strong. That's it for today. Until next tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.